Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. After Prime Minister Modi's powerful and passionate address to farmers, telling them that his land acquisition amendments are in their interest, how does the left respond? And can the opposition unity that has so far checked the government continue? Or will it fritter away? That's the key issue I shall raise with CPM Politburo member and Rajya Sabha leader Sitaram Yechury in part 2. But first, the Minister of State for External Affairs General V.K. Singh has created an enormous controversy with his unorthodox tweets after attending Pakistan's National Day reception as chief guest. Many believe his tweets are ungracious, others actually say that they are downright rude. As a former army chief, the question is, has the General behaved like a gentleman? Or has the General embarrassed the government, and more importantly, has he also embarrassed the country? That's the first discussion tonight. And joining me now to discuss General V.K. Singh's tweets and the controversy they've created is BJP spokesperson GVL Narasimha Rao, the chairman of the ex-servicemen's movement, Lieutenant General Raj Kadian, the strategic affairs editor of the Business Standard, Colonel Ajay Shukla, the well-known columnist and commentator Akar Patel, and Congress spokesperson Ajay Kumar. General Kadian, last night after attending the Pakistan National Day reception as chief guest, General V.K. Singh tweeted suggesting that this was only a duty, and secondly suggesting that he had to perform it with a certain measure of disgust. How do you respond to these unorthodox tweets?
Karan, General V.K. Singh is not a stranger to controversy. They have lived with him ever since he was in uniform. But the controversy is created this time, willingly or unwittingly, one is difficult to say, is too serious. Even his staunch sympathizers will not be able to support him in this occasion. His attending the event was part of his duty. That's a government policy. It's a protocol. It's a formality. But what he said later, also when he attended, the kind of gesture that he gave out, like he's wearing a green jacket in total sympathy with the color of the Islam, showed little more than formality. It showed a little closer identification with the hosts. But the same host later in his tweets, he was perhaps rude and ungracious by saying that he had negative vibes, or he did not really enjoy the event he attended because it was a part of his duty. Also, by saying this, he has put the government and the country in an embarrassing situation. The government was right in sending a minister to attend the function, even though Hurriyat leaders were present. But I don't think on an event like this, there is any change in the government's policy or its intent.
Akar Patel, in effect, what General V.K. Singh did was to express distaste for having been a guest of the Pakistan High Commissioner. Now, I put it to you, isn't that graceless and ungracious? After all, after enjoying someone's hospitality, and we all saw pictures in the papers and video footage of the General laughing and enjoying himself, is it fitting that you come away and then belittle your host in this way?
Green is part of the flag of India. I don't see what is wrong in anybody wearing green or saffron or white or blue or pink or purple. I think that should be kept out of this debate. I think it was insolent of him to have done what he did. I think it reveals something larger. The problem is that the government doesn't have a proper policy on Pakistan. Are we going to fight them? Are we going to talk with them? Are the Kashmiris allowed to talk to the Pakistani High Commissioner, or can they not talk to him? Will we sulk with them? Will we talk with them? We really don't know. I think that schizophrenia was reflected in the act that we saw last night. What happened was somebody went to an occasion that he said, or that's how it seems to me, to be forced to do what he didn't want to do. And I think General V.K. Singh behaved in a way that a Minister of India ought not to have done. This is not his duty. He's not an employee. He's a politician. If he doesn't agree with the government that he's part of, he should quit. Okay. He can't say that he did this as his duty. He's no longer doing this as a soldier. He's doing this as a minister. It seemed to me that the government of India drew lots and sent the least unwilling person off. For that person to have behaved in the way that he did, I don't think it reflects well on the government, doesn't reflect well on the country. It shows that we're not really serious about the way that we deal with Pakistan. I think the world will take a view of this which will be quite troubling. They will believe that we do things without thinking them through. And I think that what has transpired in the last 16 hours shows that completely.
Okay.
I don't think that there is anything in this story which is redeeming for the government.
Ajay Shukla, I want to focus first of all a little bit on General VK Singh himself. Now, to my mind, what's particularly surprising is that he's not just a former army chief. In this instance, he's Minister of State for External Affairs, and in that capacity, he is in fact the country's second highest diplomat. Now, diplomats are often expected to say they enjoy a party when they may not have. Surely what this episode has revealed is that diplomacy is not a quality that comes to General VK Singh.
No, I think what VK Singh has done is very deliberate, very carefully thought over, and I think we need to consider why he has done what he has done. Effectively, General VK Singh has gone to the Pakistanis, shaken hands with them, then turned to an audience on the side, rolled his eyes and spat on the ground. That's the effect of what he has done. And what is crucial over here to ask is, what is this audience at the side to which he is playing? Now, VK Singh is a member of Twitter. He has almost 4 lakh supporters on Twitter. And it's a very hardline sort of medium, Twitter, which has a lot of extremely right-wing people who are now starting to say, I've done a very sort of detailed survey of his Twitter feed today. There's a belief that Prime Minister Modi is now turning soft. They used to call Manmohan Singh Mon Mohan Singh. They have now started referring to Modi on Twitter as Mon Modi. The man who even after the Kathua attacks is now reaching out to Pakistan and willing to engage in dialogue. What General VK Singh has done is very carefully and in a calibrated manner signaled to the people on Twitter that he was only performing a distasteful duty, but implicitly saying that he is one of them. He is actually one of those who is filled with disgust at the idea of Pakistan. Now, this is appalling. You actually have a Minister of State of the government who is signaling to an audience that, well, I'm performing my ministerial duties, but this is not what I'm really all about. I'm one of you. I'm one of those who does not believe that you can talk peacefully to Pakistan and deal with Pakistan in a reasoned manner.
Mr. Narasimha Rao, you come to me, in fact, tonight as a BJP official spokesperson. I now put it to you that what we've heard from Ajay Shukla actually raises the concern about this matter several-fold. Earlier, we were talking about General VK Singh as someone who's behaved like a, how should I put it euphemistically, spoilt child, a badly brought up child, who's let the country down because instead of being a diplomat, he's behaved ungraciously. But what Ajay Shukla has pointed out is that this is actually a deliberate, conscious defiance of the Prime Minister, an attempt by a junior minister to show up the Prime Minister and to present himself in a favourable light as a result. This is much more serious if Ajay Shukla is correct.
No, I think everyone is only speculating, and everyone is entitled to their speculation. And a little while ago, we've heard Mr. VK Singh say, I'm not obliged to give any further clarifications on this issue. So I think, including me, we are all only trying to understand, decipher meanings of what he had stated. I think, to my mind, he's possibly torn between a soldier that he had always been all his life and a politician that he is currently and performing his political duties. This is possibly what might have led to this conflict.
Can I interrupt, Mr. Narasimha Rao? You're in a very invidious, difficult position of having to find an explanation for a man who refuses to explain himself. And I applaud you for what you're doing. But I'd like to remind you of one thing. An army chief is an officer and a gentleman. That phrase, an officer and a gentleman, is a phrase that officers of the Indian Army accept with pride. But gentlemen don't leave a party and tweet with contempt of their host. That is not gentlemanly behavior. Even children of 12 know that you don't do it. I put it to you, the general has behaved not just defiantly of his Prime Minister, but like a badly brought up child.
I would only say that this is a controversy that could have been completely done away with. because the fact that he was representing the government there, how much time he spent there, and who all he had interacted with are unimportant, but his very presence was a part of a diplomatic courtesy that was extended to the country that was hosting this this event or this National Day celebration.
Okay.
So I think this was a controversy that could have been completely done away with. But let me add a sentence here. But you see, most of us Indians really are at pains to really explain, are really not comfortable dealing with a country which on one hand is promoting terror, and we have had events of terror at the border a couple of days ago.
I'm going to stop
but
you
at
there.
the same time,
I'm going to stop you there. A diplomat is not an ordinary Indian. A diplomat by profession, and that applies more to the minister, should know how to deal with awkward situations. Otherwise, don't be a diplomat. Remember, diplomats happily and willingly lie for their country, just as soldiers lay down their lives for their country. Lying is a lot less than laying down your life. But this diplomat was unable to lie for his country and embarrassed his country as a result. I'm going to come to Ajay Kumar at that point. Dr. Kumar, your party, the Congress party, has called publicly and repeatedly for General V.K. Singh's resignation. Why do you think resignation is in order? Why should he not instead be publicly admonished and embarrassed by the Prime Minister telling him publicly you behave badly? But why resign? Why go so far as a resignation?
Karan, for one fundamental reason is that he attended this function in his official capacity. And then he goes about saying that, you know, that I was not in favor of it, and the cabinet it owns collective responsibility. So what he's saying is that I don't take responsibility for, you know, for what I was forced to do. But I just want to add that it is also the Bharatiya Janata Party's perennial obsession to manage different constituencies and, you know, do publicity. Like even GVL was saying that brought Pakistan into the issue. They want to, you know, run with the hares and hunt with the hounds. So General V.K. Singh attends the function and then goes about to his right-wing Twitter friends saying, no, I didn't want to attend. Even the PDP, BJP, so every action of theirs, you know, they want to their constituency, they say something else. On the ground, they do something else. And it's not even schizophrenia, it's deliberate double-speak, deliberate, you know, duplicitous personality trait, I guess. And they're doing it deliberately. They speak to their constituency in a different lingo. And then they speak to the others. So it's not schizophrenia, they're doing it deliberately.
I take your point, Dr. Kumar, but let's focus for today not on the BJP but on General V.K. Singh, because he's the subject. Unfortunately, General Qadian, this is not the first time General V.K. Singh has embarrassed his government. In June, literally just days after being sworn in as a minister, he tweeted, and effectively in that tweet called the new Army Chief General Suhag a criminal. He accused him of supporting dacoity. It seems to me that General V.K. Singh has made a practice out of embarrassing his government and getting away with it.
Karan, first, let me, in all fairness to General V.K. Singh, say that any suggestion that it was a deliberate slight to the Prime Minister or defiance of his authority perhaps will be unfair, because that will amount to accusing him of disloyalty to the government that he serves, which I don't think would be his trait. Now, the problem with General V.K. Singh is that his transformation from the olive grain to the chudidar has a long way to go.
You mean it's not been successfully done at all?
So far, none. I mean, this incident indicates the diplomacy requires a deliberate disconnect between your feelings and your speech, which he has not been able to do. You may feel anything, but as a diplomat, you're performing a duty. At best, it is an indiscretion, which he needs to avoid. I think he should hire a professional tweeter if he wants to remain on the tweet. But what he has done is absolutely indiscreet. It is embarrassing to the government, embarrassing to the Prime Minister, to the country, and embarrassing to Pakistan. I mean, they must be laughing at us.
Ajay Shukla, General Qadian called this an indiscretion, but I want to put something to you. Is there a fundamental character flaw in General V.K. Singh that leads him repeatedly to put his personal concerns ahead of other things, regardless of what impact those concerns may have? For instance, he tried hard to have General Suhag's promotion to Army Chief delayed when the belief was that if that happened, it would be his Samdhi General Ashok Singh who would get the job. Before that, he claimed that the army had regularly bribed all politicians in Jammu and Kashmir, leading to all his predecessors as Army Chief taking the unprecedented step of issuing a statement dissociating themselves from him. And then, of course, as chief, he took his own government to court. And then, of course, there were those suspicious movements in January 2012, seemingly corroborated in 2014 by the former DGMI General A.K. Chaudhary. Now, when you look at all these incidents, do you get the feeling that there's a character flaw here that leads him to always put his own interests ahead of others, regardless of the impact? Ajay Shukla? Oh, we've lost Ajay Shukla. Akar Patel, you heard that question. Can I put that question to you, Akar?
I think we ought to remember that it doesn't matter whether or not the general was planning a coup or planning to scare the government. I think the fact is that the government was frightened of him. The story that came out in the Indian Express, which he threw scorn upon, I think showed us quite clearly that the government thought this man was unstable. I personally am quite appalled that somebody like him rose through the ranks in the army as he did. But for the grace of God, we would have him leading the army for another year. Somebody of this kind of quality heading one of the world's largest armies, to me, is slightly disturbing. I don't think that he is of the quality that we need. I don't think he's of the stability that we need. I would agree with the question and say that there is some sort of character flaw. What it is, I do not know. But anybody who acts in this sort of juvenile fashion, whether or not deliberately, whether or not knowing what damage he's causing, ought not to have been army chief, certainly ought not to have been minister. Having been made minister, ought not to have been deployed in the kind of sensitive situation he was last night. And I would put some of the blame of this on the Prime Minister. I think this sort of drawing of lots on who the scapegoat has to be to go to the Pakistan High Commission and grin and bear it, get hammered by the other channels. I think he was totally the wrong man. He put up a very poor performance. We ought to know that the Pakistani newspapers are running this story. This is not something of insignificance that will die the moment the news cycle ends. Pakistan will remember this. They will hold it against us. India and the government will have to own up to it the next time they negotiate with Pakistan. This is something of gross stupidity which ought not to have been done and for which we will pay.
Mr. Narasimhan, I want to go back to you at that point before I go to Dr. Ajay Kumar. This has become a serious issue. Do you think the time has come for the Prime Minister to make clear, in whatever way the PM chooses, and the PM is a very subtle man at times, that he doesn't approve of what General V.K. Singh did? Because at the moment, the silence from the Prime Minister suggests the Prime Minister is condoning or forgiving or excusing what General V.K. Singh has done. So I put it to you, should the Prime Minister find a clever, effective way of making clear he does not approve of this behavior from his ministers?
Karan, any indiscretion on the part of any minister, if it could be called that, would certainly be taken note of by the Prime Minister. And if he does consider this to be an indiscretion and a significant indiscretion, certainly it would be conveyed, and certainly not through the media or not to the media, but certainly every such instance would be conveyed or communicated so that such incidents don't happen again.
Mr. Narasimha Rao, I'm told by reputable, reliable, authoritative sources that in fact this morning Mrs. Swaraj, who is General V.K. Singh's boss, summoned him and in no uncertain terms told him off that his behavior was unacceptable. Can you confirm that?
No, I have tried to check in my own party sources, and I'm not privy to, I'm not really, I'm not aware of any such interaction. But certainly if this is seen to be an indiscretion, definitely it has caused embarrassment, because we are discussing it 24 hours after the event, and this was a controversy that we could have done without. And certainly I think the concerned authorities would certainly communicate in case this is considered to be an indiscretion.
Mr. Narasimha Rao, you're being commendably candid and frank. This is an indiscretion, this has embarrassed people, and this has created a needless controversy. I simply repeat it because I think it's unusual, although admirable, to have a party spokesman being so honest about the misdemeanor, and I'm using that word deliberately, of a minister of his government. I'm going to bring you in at this point, Dr. Ajay Kumar. Late last night, General VK Singh tweeted to say that sections of the media are twisting this issue, and he is disgusted by that. Now, in your eyes, is the media misinterpreting and distorting General VK Singh? Is the media making a story out of an issue that doesn't deserve to be noticed and commented on? In other words, is the media at fault, or is General VK Singh at fault?
You know, it's like blaming the messenger. Karan, the message was wrong. The whole action was his. I mean, if he had not tweeted, and all over the Twitter, there is the photos of him with great born homie with the Pakistan High Commissioner. And one thing in this present time is everything gets captured. And then he sends tweets saying he was disgusted. But the way he was partying it for that short period of time did not show any form of disgust. So if the media is reporting, I think it's doing a fair job, and we are sometimes at the receiving end, and so be it. But I don't think the media can be blamed for anything. I think the media should be as what you call inquisitive as it should be to show everything false on both sides, our sides or theirs.
You know, General Kaitan, at the end of the day, General VK Singh has only been a politician for 10 months. He's only been a minister for 10 months. But he was in the army for 40 years, and he rose right to the top. And therefore, as far as the army is concerned, he's a former army chief first, a minister second. Now, after his behavior, not just at this party where he was ungracious, but the deliberate tweets and taunts about his successor, General Sohag, the claims that he's made about politicians bribing in Kashmir, taking the government of the day to court, and all of that. How does the army view General VK Singh? Or has he frayed and damaged the bond that otherwise should exist between the army and a former chief?
I think army no longer need to view him. He is history now, like any other chief. But yes, earlier you lost Ajay Shukla on your audio. Your question that he called army people murderers and dacoits was totally unacceptable. We said it then. People operating in insurgency areas have to carry out searches and raids. If they were murderers, then I am one of them. I've been a murderer myself. I've been employed many times, and all of us have done it. Now, whether he should remain Minister of State for External Affairs, it is for the Prime Minister, it is his prerogative to decide. But perhaps as Army Chief, his experience lies in better administration. Maybe his talent could be better utilized in a ministry where any such future indiscretion does not have at least international repercussions.
I'm going to stop you. You're saying a very interesting thing. I'm decoding you. You're saying shift him out of external affairs where he's clearly a bull in a china shop and put him somewhere else where A, there is less limelight and attention, and B, where there's less room for his indiscretion and his follies.
See, if his attempt to hog the limelight was intentional, then unfortunately he got more of lime and less of light. So what I am trying to suggest is that put him in a place where any such future indiscretion, which cannot be ruled out knowing his past record, at least does not have an international repercussion where the country can be embarrassed.
One other thing, you heard Akar Patel question, how could a man with this sort of character flaws, which we've repeatedly seen, end up as army chief? I want to ask you a difficult question, but I want you to give me an honest answer. With hindsight, does it seem to you that he was the wrong sort of person to be army chief?
Well, in the hindsight, as you said, perhaps it can be said, but no system is flawless. So is the army selection system. There are checks and balances. Army system perhaps is the best, but still may not be good enough in certain respects. There have been cases, this is not the only exception, where people who go up don't actually come up to the expectations where it should have been the case.
Akar Patel, I want to come back to you. This is a story that, as you said, is going to become a huge cause célèbre in Pakistan. Understandably, they will be upset. They will also be laughing at the way an Indian minister has ridiculed and embarrassed his own country. Does this not therefore call for some sort of thoughtful, measured response from our Prime Minister? I raised it a moment ago with Mr. Narasimha Rao, and obviously he had to be guarded. He's a party spokesman, but he was still very frank, and I applaud him for that. But you're a journalist, you can be more open. What do you think the Prime Minister should do?
I think, Mr. Thapar, I think the problem is that within the BJP and the Sangh, there is a dichotomy of the language that is spoken on the ground and the language that is spoken by the leaders. I think what is acceptable to the constituency and to the electorate is precisely the sort of language that General Singh has spoken. This is why he has refused to clarify himself. Being in the External Affairs Ministry, he has chosen to antagonize our neighbor rather than clarify. Issue one clarifying tweet. I did not mean what I said. I was happy to have gone to the Pakistan function. I did that on behalf of the government and I was pleased to have done it. That's all it would have taken. He chose not to do it. The Prime Minister chose not to publicly admonish him for not doing this. I think this tells you something very clear, that despite the controversy this has created, as the BJP spokesman has acknowledged it has, the government chooses to do nothing about it. There is a reason for that. They don't want to antagonize the primary constituency. And time after time you will find that some random sadhvi or some minister will say something hateful and something damaging. It will be treated as something which is very minor. I think this precisely is the kind of thing we are talking about right now.
Okay.
That the belief is that what General Singh did was something minor. It will pass in time. What is not realized is that the damage it has caused in external affairs terms can't be repaired. You need to repair it now. They're choosing not to do it. This is a price we will pay as a country. This is not something that just affects the BJP.
Very quickly, I'm going to go to Mr. Narasimha Rao. Mr. Narasimha Rao, we have only 30 seconds, but I think it's important that as spokesman, and particularly as one who's been so admirably outspoken and candid today, that you should have the last word. What you heard Akar Patel say is that this is a situation which is not one that you can say will disappear tomorrow. It has an impact on your party's image. It has an impact in strengthening the very forces that perhaps are a threat to harmony and peace in India. Do you think, all that considered, even if it happens behind closed doors and not in public, that the Prime Minister should, forgive my phrase, crack the whip?
I would disagree with the contention that this could become a major diplomatic thorny issue in future. But I think this at best would be this could be a bad comment or a bad chapter. I don't think it will have any significant repercussions or implications for this. But as far as you see, for me,
very quickly, because I'm out of time. What is the but? What is the but?
Yeah. What the government? It's the government's image. It's the government's intention that is more important. No individual minister's prestige is as important as the government's prestige and government's intent. So I don't think it should. No one should see this as an individual.
Who represents the government if not the ministers?
All right. If I understand you correctly, we're out of time. If the government's prestige and image is more important than the pride and prestige of an individual minister, surely that's one good reason why the Prime Minister should dissociate himself from this errant minister and, if possible, make it clear to the country that he doesn't approve of what General V.K. Singh has done. But we're out of time there, and my apologies that we lost Colonel Shukla. I'm afraid that line broke down and we couldn't get it back. But my thanks to my other guests for joining me.